to the Boxing Now podcast. I am your host, that dude named Dave, aka DJ, and sitting to my left, but he is my right-hand man. It is Jorge, aka Papo. What's popping today, man?
Doing good, man. Nothing bad, but work.
Nothing going on but the rent. Sorry, I'm showing my 80s, showing my age here. But before we get started here, we're gonna talk about little Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders. We'll talk about Floyd Mayweather. We're gonna talk about Teofimo Lopez this week. But before we get started, I gotta say this: click like, subscribe, hit the bell notification for YouTube. Come on, people, we need y'all. By the way, we're at 99 subscribers. We're one away from 100. Brand new show, getting to that nice little round number mark. Come on, people. We need 100 subscribers. We're there. We're begging. We're here. Also, audio podcast. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, in all formats. Click on like. Give us 5 stars. Give us 4 stars. I don't know what's wrong with you. But at the same time, though, comment and show us some love. Okay, Jorge. Oh, yeah. One last thing here. Spangler Sports World. Hey, I was talking to Eduardo the other day, man. You're doing big things, man. Channel 249, 215, 251. Hey, they got a lot of things going on this summer coming up for Spanish Sports World, man. They doing big things. So shout out to Eduardo, man. You're working hard. I see you over there, man. So let's get the show on the road here, Jorge. I said my little intros here. Man, we missed about a week and a half here. Sorry, everybody, that we weren't around. Work kicked in. We got lives outside the show here. So we got to pay some bills and things. But we're back, though, because we came back for a very, very big, hot weekend. Canelo Alvarez fought for the third time already since we started this podcast, man. It seems like he's fighting every week now, man.
I don't say every week, but close enough to basically say, hey, Canelo's fight coming up. Yeah, it's the second one. Canelo fight coming up. Oh, number 3.
Yeah.
And then he'll be fighting in September. So, yeah, be right around the corner before you know it.
Man, so Canelo fought on DAZN this Saturday night on Mother's Day weekend. He was fighting Billy Joe Saunders. We've been talking about this for the last several months, how Canelo has his schedule. I hate repeating it, but for some people checking out for the first time, we've talked about how he has his schedule, and he wants to be the first undisputed super middleweight champion in the world. Now, let me just add that there has never been a 3-belt undisputed super middleweight champion. When I was there, was talking about that on the telecast. Mm-hmm. So the fact that in the super middleweight division, the most that anybody's ever had was 2 belts, even in the 3-belt era. So Canelo is 1 belt away. He had an 8th round knockout against Billy Joe Saunders. Me and you, we weren't together watching the fight, but we were texting each other and we were scoring the fight round by round. And we had some interesting scores, but let's just kick it off here. Canelo's the best fighter in boxing right now.
Yeah. At this point, for one main reason. He's fighting often. He's fighting often so far. Like I said, 3 times in a very short period of time with 2 more fights still on the schedule. So you're going to get Canelo, 5-6 times within a calendar year. That's impressive. And kudos to him for doing this at this point of his career, where I think other fighters in the past that were reaching that stature or less than that stature were already trying to fight twice a year. So to me, there's no more credit I can give to that man for getting out in the ring and putting on a show. Nothing wrong to say about that.
You know what? Before we get into the details of this fight, Jorge, we were talking about this before we started to record here, that we got to give shout out to Canelo for fighting as much as he's fought recently, like you just brought up here. Because if things fall into play, and we've mentioned this on several pods in the past, if things fall into play, he's going to fight 5 times in a calendar year. From December to December, he could technically fight 5 times. Now, we had COVID in 2020, and he had a fight in December against Rocky Felton in that December of 2019. So technically, if everything goes straight, he could fight 6 times within a 23-month period, give or take, right? Guys are fighting once or twice a year. When you have the top guy in boxing who makes the most money and is fighting consistently, these guys need to freaking fight, Jorge. These guys are calling Canelo out. They want the big payday. They, like Billy Joe, got a $2.5 million minimum depending on what he might get on the back end for subscriptions, things of that nature in the UK pay-per-view and overseas model that he may get. But these guys want this big time payday, but it doesn't mean nothing if you don't beat no one to get on Canelo's radar. If Canelo can fight 5 times, how come these guys can't fight 5 times? Where that Canelo's like, okay, we can make money together because I'm going to make money because I'm a name. If you establish your name, that means we can make more money. Why these guys won't do that, Jorge?
That's something we talked about like, in the pre-meeting and stuff. For him to fight this many times in the era of guys wanting to emulate Floyd Mayweather and the model he did with his fights and stuff. So this is basically for all the young fighters out there. You need to look at Canelo and the way he's doing things. And what he's doing this year is not the standard for him. That's not get it twisted, guys. But what he's doing this year in the last 23 months and stuff, 6 times, especially this one calendar year, 5 times in one calendar year. When you're that young, you got no excuse. I don't care who you're fighting, as long as you're fighting, right? As long as you're active, right? If every fight can't be a $6 million, $8 million fight, but if you're fighting, you're at least doing one thing. You're promoting yourself in the ring, in and out. So to me, just get in the ring, right? There's no reason why it takes 6-7 months to get a fight with a mandatory, for example. That's you, Teofimo. I'm glad you got the bag, but I wish you had fought more before that. That goes for every other fighter out there. Stop trying to chase down money. Your money will be there. It's coming. Right. It will come. It will come. Believe me, you guys are going to be aiming for each other anyway, so it will come. But the fact that you got older fighters making this much easier than you guys are, you guys are looking at the wrong person. You guys need to look at Canelo, how he's doing it.
Yeah, we'll have a conversation about some other things in the boxing world that people think that could be hurting the game. I don't think it's hurting the game. It's like the exhibition fights that has actually put more spotlight on there. But when you literally have the money man in the division, not in the division, in the boxing world, he's the highest paid athlete. There's him, then there's Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Then they're heavyweights. That's for a reason. After heavyweights, everybody else should not be making that money. Of course, Floyd Mayweather changed that model, being the smaller guys. Like actually, as far as like extravagant money, you can look like I would say another small guy. Who am I thinking of? King Hamed.
Prince Hamed, yeah.
Prince Hamed, I'm sorry, King. He's a king now. You see how big he is now, but he's a king.
I appreciate it from back then, but now it's always Prince Hamed when we were doing
He changed the money game from like small guys, and then Floyd took it to another level. But when it comes to the money in boxing, heavyweights always drive it. But when you got Canelo, who's start off at 147 and now is a super middleweight now, his minimum was 15 million. And I do not want to, I'm going to say this early so we can get to the fight here. I am so sick and tired of Demetrius Andrade right now. Fight somebody. Fight anybody. Fight anybody. Your highest ranked win is against someone ranked number 9, and you've been at 154 and 160. You can say I'm not trying to be a Canelo fanboy, but let's just keep a spade here. Let's keep it 100. If you are beating all champions or former champions and you're collecting belts, that means that you're fighting top 5, top 10 competition. Facts.
Yeah.
Now, you can be mad at the title holders in the division, but the guys were ring champions, or they held the WBO belt, or they held the WBA belt. These are title holders, and he's fighting champions. Don't get mad at the division that he's in because of his weight. Now, you want him to go 175? There's no names there at 175 that you're going to be clamoring for. We know as boxing heads that there's guys at 175 like Bevo and Better BF who can fight their butts off. But the average casual fan don't know who the heck they are. We only know about the people they know, but these guys ain't fighting nobody. So I just wanted to say this here. Canelo could fight 5 times from December to December. If these guys want that check, go ahead and fight 2 or 3 times in the next year. And you know what, though? You'll be on Canelo's radar, and then it'll be a big fight. But don't sit here and only fight once in a year and a half. Take away COVID. If you only fight once or twice a year, don't complain when Canelo doesn't give you the time of day.
You're basically trying to bitch your way to be on his radar.
There you go.
And you can't. Yep. I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to call you off for it. Don't bitch to be on his radar. Fight your way to get on his radar. Period. I mean, there's a reason why that Triple G Canelo fight happened in the first place, right? I mean, to me, we talked about this a bunch of times. Triple G cleared out the bottom tier of that middleweight division to get to the point where he can get all those belts.
Yep.
So to me, Andrade, whoever is bitching to get into Canelo's radar, you just need to keep fighting. If he's fighting 5 times a year, what the hell are you doing?
Right. You
don't get credit for that one fight and think he's on his radar automatic. It don't work that way.
And just because you're on the same broadcast network doesn't mean you're going to get the fight too. I mean, it makes it easier from a negotiating standpoint as far as money cut is concerned, but you don't bring nothing to the table. If I'm Canelo Yes, I would rather do a third fight with Triple G because that's going to be more money. I am fighting Billy Joe Saunders this weekend because he has a WBO belt and you're still at middleweight and I cannot get down to 160. If I'm going to fight Caleb Plant in September for Mexican Independence Weekend, he has an IBF belt and he's also undefeated as well. It's not like, and there's so many people online and I understand how people hate certain top fighters. It comes with the ball game, right, Jorge? Yep. You become the number one guy, number two guy, you know, like during our younger days, like say younger, when we became good friends, we followed Floyd and Manny, and depending on what side you were on, you know, there was criticism on both sides.
Before you even mentioned, you're talking about Oscar, you're talking about
Trinidad. I'm talking about us in general, like when we first met each other. And the funny thing, like if you bring up Oscar's competition, right? Oscar fought everybody. He got trash because he lost to the top guys. It's like you can't win for losing. Like I'm not an Oscar fan. I just want to put that out there. I'm not an Oscar De La Hoya fan. But one thing you cannot take away from Oscar De La Hoya is he fought everybody. And even when people told me he shouldn't take that fight, he took those fights, he lost those fights, and he came back and still kept fighting. So at the end of the day, only thing you can be mad at Oscar is he's Oscar.
Oscar now. Oscar now, the promoter of the business, man. That's a different subject for a different.
I can understand you can hate Oscar as a person, knowing how he is, right? Take away his demons, right? You can hate him as a person, but as a fighter, I don't have any qualms against him because he fought everybody. Even though he lost, he didn't make excuses for those losses, except for the Trinidad fight.
You know what's funny? You watch, you know what? I'll leave that for another Oscar conversation because you know what? I can go pretty hard on.
I know
on the post interview and the walk down the ring, bitching and whining along the way about the boxing lesson he was teaching or whatever. Like to me, you telegraphed that in your head already during the fight. You already were planning your post argument, you know, your post fight, sentences, statements, and shit, and then he lost. I can still say it, but I'm not gonna sound like a whiny bitch about it.
So I was gonna talk about this at the end, but I just want to get this out the way, you know, about Canelo and who he's fighting and guys, complaining. Fight, beat notable guys. Maybe, and then I'm not trying to count pockets, but sometimes you may gotta take a little bit less money to get certain fights to get the big fights. Canelo's guarantee was only 15 million. I say only 15 million when before he got screwed out of his major deal was probably 365 million. 15 million for this fight compared to an 11 fight deal where 365 million is a far cry. But I know he's gonna get more in the back end. He might get close to 20 plus million.
He'll get more through his promotion.
Yeah, but the fact that his guarantee was only 15, so in a sense, he's taking less money too. The top guy making gangs of money, he could literally be like Floyd, like, nah, I want my 50. Oh, we can keep it 40 and keep it moving. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But no, he's taking less money. He's going to make something back. But if he's taking less money being a top guy, you guys can take less money and get these fights in so that he's on the radar. That way, when you do get the fight with Canelo, you're going to get more than the 2.5 million and you're going to make even more money. And you can be like, who's the guy we talked about that fought Floyd? We love here. He fought him twice in 2014. Maidana. He earned that Floyd fight.
You're in the second fight. You're in the fight in the first place.
He earned the first fight, and then he earned a rematch.
He definitely earned the rematch
because no one was worthy of fighting Floyd for a rematch in September. And you know what? We ain't seen Maidana in 7 years, and he's fat, living high in the hog in Argentina. That's what you need to do. Pull a Marcos Maidana, beat a whole bunch of guys for 2 years, and get the fight and cash out, baby.
Exactly.
I'm done on that. I just had to say that's my PSA. Fight people, and then the top money guy will fight you. Right?
You know what's funny, guys? I mean, we weren't trying to go down this path. But you know what? Andrade got us going down this path.
Andrade did it. And you know what, though? He's a good fighter. I'm not going to take anything away from a fighter who can get into the ring and is box as well as he and is also an Olympian. He's a good fighter, but you have not earned the Canelo fight. I'm saying that right now. Nope. You can earn the Canelo fight, though. You know what, though? He can earn the fight by Cinco de Mayo next year. Easily. You can that's a long time, I can say, but this time next year, you could be on that stage, beat a few guys. Between now and next May, win 2 fights. And you know what, though? You could be there. All right, let's get to the fight here, man. I just had to do that. I had to do that, Jorge, because I was going to talk about that at the end, but it's like these guys just got to fight guys, So let's get to the fight.
You know, it's funny in our pre-meeting, it never came up. We brought it up maybe for maybe a minute, and we're talking about everything else. But I think for 1 second we're going to hit this record button, get this show started, and bam, Andrade, you set him off.
Yeah,
it was bubbling in his mind, and he said, "Fuck you, Andrade.
Oh,
Come
God,
hard."
Can't. Oh my God, I earn it. I understand, like, if you can get the fight by earning it, that's dope. But at this point now, Canelo ain't checking for you.
Yeah.
He cursed you out and your daddy. He kicked you and your daddy out the press conference. He has no respect for you. No, that means you ain't that even earned. That's not going to earn you the fight. All right. So win 2 fights, and then you and your daddy can come back and beat him down if you try to. All right.
There we go.
That's where it goes. Let's get to the fight here now.
Let's get to the fight. Yes.
So whoops, I got to do this.
There you go.
There's my bell.
There's
so Canelo, got the knockout. He 8th round stoppage. Billy Joe was stuck on the stool. Now we scored a little bit differently. I had it going into the 8th round, 4 rounds to 3 for Canelo. So that makes it 77-75.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember your score?
I had it 3. No, hold on. I'm looking right back at my notes. So I think I had it by 2-5. I had it the other way around, and none of that because you kept me honest. I had, for whatever reason, and Carl Frost made the same mistake as well, but I think it's understandable to basically think that you can still score a 10-10 round, right? An even round, right? It was a 10-point must system. So I had the first round even, similar to what Carl Frost had it, but you put me to it. You said if you had to give somebody 10-9, I still gave it to Billy Joe. I still think they were still kind of feeling themselves out in that first round. It didn't really settle in until maybe the tail end of that first round, going to the second and third round where I gave it all to Canelo. But after that third round, I'd say probably halfway around the 4th, I still gave it to Billy Joe. It was close enough for me to give it to him. But after that, it was quiet in that arena. I mean, it was basically getting to the point where it was interesting. It was competitive. Billy Joe was implementing his game plan. He was basically finding his pace of the fight. So I gave a lot of those later rounds before the 8th round to Billy Joe. So I'd say if I had to relook at it, and I haven't relooked at it again. I wanted to basically do this recording just going off my first view of the fight and stuff. If I had to go rewatch it, I know you made some arguments on our pre-meeting and stuff that you gave the first round to Canelo. I can probably concede that as well. So at the very least, I probably are having this conversation with you saying it's 3-4, but I have it for Billy Joe. You had a 4-3, I think, for Canelo at that point.
Yeah. The judges' scores actually had it the way I scored it. One judge actually scored the same rate.
One judge had it the way you had it.
77-75. One judge actually gave one more round to Canelo than when I had 4-3, and the other two gave it was 5-2 for Canelo.
Yeah, which I thought, like I said, to me, Billy Joe at the least by that point had 3 rounds, right? I was in agreement more or less I was in more agreement with your score than, and I can see, like I said, I'd be making a hard case for my score, but I liked your score. It's probably the closest I can say to something palatable that I'd be like, okay, I don't have a problem with that.
My score is a little bit, I think I had 1 round off from the other judges, and I think like the 5th round was different. The way I scored it was I felt that 5, 6, and 7 was Billy Joe. I felt that and
I was with you on that.
I felt that those are the rounds that he actually outboxed Canelo. He threw more. He landed more, even though it was very, very economical landing punches for this fight here. I think Canelo landed 80-some punches to Billy Joe 60. He had landed exactly 60 for 8 rounds. So Billy Joe was not landing much. He was,
and neither was Canelo. This is one of those fights where it's funny. Usually when you watch 2 fighters that are counter punchers, those tend to be slightly boring fights because you're looking for one to initiate the counter punching action, right? Mm-hmm. And in this case, both fighters fought within the pocket enough, and you're basically looking at foot feints, lateral feints from Canelo versus the draw and counter from Billy Joe from like rounds 3 going on, where he really started like trying to implement that plan and stuff. But round 3, he didn't do that well on it. Round 4, he started working a little bit more. 5, 6, and 7, he was forcing Canelo to basically hold that gun right back in his holster. Never really pulled it out and stuff. So based on just that, the pace of the action and stuff, Billy Joe defensively, you're good economically throwing punches, but economically making Canelo not throw anything. And so you had a couple rounds there where I don't care what anybody says. If you can be the most diehard Mexican in that crowd, you had to be worried a little bit, because to me, any type a fight that's that competitive against Canelo, you're like, hey, something's going on here. It doesn't feel right. And if the rest of the crowd's feeling it the way you're feeling it, you have to share that same sentiment, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, I feel like that knockout in the 8th round was almost like a sigh of relief to some degree.
I agree with that to a degree here. Those middle rounds going into the second half of the fight, let's just say it here in Arlington and Jerry World, it broke a boxing record. It was 73,000. And like I said, I always talk about how I have my setup and I have my surround sound so I can hear the punches. And even before you said this, before coming over here, I was like, man, it's quiet in Jerry World there. You're like, and I don't know if you've done the same thing too. Like you're watching the fight, but then you try to look into the audience, like you look in the back, and when you see those certain views,
nobody's raising their hands. If Canelo threw a punch, even if it missed, usually you get some reaction. But it's it was like in the second and third round where the Canelo was winning, was doing his thing and stuff. He throw 3 punches, maybe he missed 2, but you still got a crowd going, whoa. Mm-hmm. No, none of that. I mean, it was like he was trying to pot, basically Billy Joe was only giving him pot shot range to do something with those punches, and it was quiet. Yeah. So to me, that was, basically controlling the pace. I mean, it was basically his fighting BJ's fight the way he wanted it for a good 3.5 rounds. I was like, this is interesting.
Well, for those 3 rounds, like I say, that pace, but the fight was Canelo's pace, because one thing about Canelo is that he arguably has the best defense in boxing right now. Like I was saying, earlier, how he's mimicked Floyd Mayweather's career to a degree as far as his style, as far as like defense. There's certain things that he's taken from that loss from Floyd. You can see it's very evident, right? And one of the things of Floyd's game plan is that whatever you do, I'm gonna employ a game plan where that you don't throw as many punches as you normally would. So in those first 3 or 4 rounds, remember, I was texting. I said, Billy Joe's is not jabbing.
Yeah, he wasn't jabbing.
He wasn't jabbing. He was not just jabbing. He wasn't throwing in general, because you look at someone like Billy Joe, who's a southpaw, and everything comes from that southpaw stance, right? And the fact that you're seeing him, I was like, okay, he's not throwing. This is Canelo's fight. This is a Floyd fight. When that I only need to throw 20 or 30 punches around, because I know that you're not throwing. So when you have those moments and pockets of no one throwing, or Canelo, we saw he was the stalker, in the beginning. He was the one you saw in that first round. They were trying to go, but then eventually Canelo, in those first 3 rounds, he was the one stalking until Billy Joe was able to get the boxing going, right? But it was Canelo doing the stalking. So I had texted you that, okay, Canelo setting traps here. And what I was talking about is the jab to the double jab that led to the body. And then the body shots were doing was bringing his guard down so that he couldn't throw his jab. And then, of course, certain body shots was taking away the power shot. The main thing, though, is that the jab leads to everything, especially for a guy like Billy Joe. He pops shots, but it's the jab. He's not a power puncher. So I was looking at this. He's not jabbing. He's not throwing as much. This is Canelo's fight. And one thing that I'm not saying this, it was purposely, but he wanted him to come down lower. Billy Joe's 5'11", almost 6 foot. He crouched down normally anyway as a fighter. So he's bringing his level down to Canelo's height. When Canelo's going to the body, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't have to be Canelo. Let's say a Billy Joe Saunders was doing the same game plan. Mm-hmm. You're going to crunch lower to protect your body depending on the angle it is. So if you already got a guy who doesn't fight tall, and then you make him even shorter, you brought him down to Canelo's height. And now you brought him down to even shorter than Canelo's height. So now you took away your height advantage. He only had a half-inch reach advantage. So at the end of the day, then, all the pros were Canelo's right now, as far as physical dimensions. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, that's one part of the game plan. Take away his physical strengths and abilities. Then you go to the body, and Canelo's the best body puncher in the game right now. We know that. Whenever you fight Canelo, you should know first thing, do 3,000 crunches of sit-ups in the morning alone, because you're getting banged to the body, right? That's going to happen, Jorge. You're going to get hit in the body. And he focused on the body. But one thing we did mention too is that he was throwing that uppercut, because the fact that he got lower, he wanted to throw it because it's at a better angle that it get more power to his uppercut. And that uppercut in the 8th round to that eye, woo! Let me ask you this question. I don't know if you said you only watched it once. Did you see how fast that eye became black and closed up after he landed it?
It's funny is that that uppercut, basically, I saw it when you saw it in real time. You're seeing it on you're only getting his left side, right? But I saw where that uppercut was coming from, and I said, okay, that's an awkward angle, and that hit. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you see him move around, right, then when you see actually to see
the immediate reaction,
then you can kind of see he's squinting. So you can already tell that the cut was there. I saw the cut right away. It's okay. He's definitely not the same right there. And it's just that punch came at the right angle at the right time. His uppercuts leading up to that point were more straight down the middle uppercuts, more of the shorter uppercut variety. This wasn't nowhere near that extension.
Let me cut you up. Not all of them like that, because remember I mentioned to you that uppercut in the 4th round, that was another angle that he came, and that mouthpiece, it popped out, and he was biting down hard enough that if he wasn't biting down, that mouthpiece would have been fine like 15 feet.
Agreed.
So I'm saying, like, those uppercuts that he was literally throwing sideways, I was watching. He literally would turn and was coming from a different angle. Like, I saw the one straight ahead. There was a lot of uppercuts that he was throwing, that he was sized up and was throwing it from there, or he could have been the way Billy Joe was. Way he moves around in that angle, and that's when he threw it. Like, that was purpose. You can see how many times he threw that angled uppercut, that it was practice. If you're going to be here and I'm on an awkward angle, I'm throwing it if you're low.
Basically, what I mean, so let me rephrase this then. I say okay. not just straight uppercut the way you typically would normally see a straight uppercut, which is more like a down up motion. It's basically more like a hook uppercut, basically. He's basically taking it wide but angling it as an uppercut on the way up, basically. So, and the thing is with those type of hook uppercuts, as we talked about before, like we said with Maidana and Broner, Maidana knocked down Broner because he basically threw an uppercut hook that came at an angle. He thought it was going for the body and hit him in the head. This would be no different in this case, where you throw an uppercut at a certain angle, hoping that, you think he's going to go one way and it's actually going somewhere else and stuff. So you saw a variety of angles where he threw that uppercut. The last one was the most noticeable one, because to me, that was low and met Billy Joe's face on his way down. So to me, that was like the most awkward uppercut, but it came with so much strength and power and torque that it was the heaviest punch out, obviously, of the whole fight. But you're right about that uppercut in the 4th round. Comes from a different angle. He's thinking it's probably going to its body, hits him in the face, mouthpiece almost comes out of his mouth. So he's holding on for life in that 4th round. But I would say for the most part, the fight was with Canelo. The first 3 rounds it's an interesting fight if you're watching footwork. Because any type of fight you get with an orthodox fighter against a southpaw, it's a fight basically for the outside positioning on. So from an orthodox fighter's perspective, his left foot, you're basically fighting for your left foot to be outside of his foot, his right foot. So that way your punches coming in. So to me, when those punches were working in the first, second, third round, it was basically because he was winning the positional battle at that point. And again, good combination of foot feints, lateral feints, that basically, as he's stalking too, let's not forget, as he's stalking, he is basically using his feet to basically try to find an advantage to basically get inside and throw those body punches, those jabs, those double jabs. And he did a good job. Billy Joe, the best thing he did was counter. He fought his fight. He basically countered his feints with draws. And to me, that made the fight more compelling, because at the very least, now you saw Canelo saying, okay, now I have to adjust to this guy. And how long will it take me? 3 rounds, again, for people who are there ringside, that's scary, folks. That was scary. So to me, he's given, at the very least, something along the lines of like Arizona Lara, Floyd, in terms of giving up information as to how you would then attack Canelo. Whether that applies to, say, his next fight with Caleb Plant, I don't know. Or any future fight with any other fighter we might be wanting to talk about. But to me, it was a great fight. I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was very compelling.
It was an interesting fight.
It was a lot of stuff you can actually point to from the first round all the way to the end. I mean, it was a lot. I mean, to me, from a boxing nerd, there was a lot of sweet science to that match. And to me, it
was high skill level.
High skill. To me, Billy Joe, I mean, he got multiple fractures.
His career might be over.
His career might be over.
That's crazy.
I wanted to give a quick shout out to a man that I saw on YouTube. He's got close to 500,000 subscribers. So I would say if you get a chance, do subscribe to him. His name is, I believe, Brian. What was this? Let me pull this up real quick here. Because
while you're pulling that up here, I just want to state that I watched the fight again, and if you do a close up when Canelo lands that hook, that uppercut,
the ear.
Like I said, the eye immediately closes. I have seen shots where you get swelling right away. I have never seen an eye turn completely black. Like you get a black eye, it was black and it shut within like 10 to 15 seconds. Like, and then I was when you saw the round and Canelo was waving to people, like we knew he was hurt. And he even said, I thought I broke his cheekbone.
I think that's why he's going based off of it. I think once he felt he broke his cheekbone, he said that
he was in retreat mode. As soon as that punch happened, everything that week that you were praising Billy Joe for, he went into retreat mode, and that was it.
And to base it, so I wanted to give a shout out to Brian Suter, MD, right? 450,000 subscribers. Do subscribe when you get a chance. He's a sports doctor, but he gave probably the best analysis on the breakdown of that injury and stuff. So to Canelo's point where he felt like he broke his cheek, the doctor describes it, and I'm paraphrasing here, where if you hit the cheekbone, you essentially are pushing that bone technically towards the eye socket. And for him to have multiple fractures around that eye socket, it's very painful based on his description. There was also something mentioned in the broadcast where it was possible he had a cornea tear, right? That's the way to look at it. And the way he described the cornea tear is once that cornea tears, your eye, by its own natural defenses, wants to close. You are not going to be able to open that eye. Nope. So whether it was a combination of the cheek fracture with the orbital bone fractures, the multiple fractures, or maybe along the way with the cornea scratch, you don't want to open your eye. And you can see it right there. He was not wanting to open his eye at all. From what they were saying on the when he was on the stool, he didn't want to open his eye. He couldn't open his eye if he tried. And as he was trying to open his eye, it swelled some more. You went from watching the eye being somewhat open to not being open at all by the time the basically quit.
And his corner stopped the fight.
And that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, he didn't stop the fight. His corner stopped the fight. But I just want to add that karma's a mofo. Karma's a mofo, because boxing is the hurt business. Everything that you said, Jorge, and from your opinion, could be spot on as far as how Billy Joe boxed and how he took control of the fight. The crowd was silent in a record capacity event, and all it takes in boxing is one punch
for karma.
For one punch. Because the reason why I say karma, because Billy Joe was complaining about other fighters who, I forgot the fighter's name, who actually had to quit in the stool because
I think was his last name.
Yeah, he had an orbital bone fracture from a punch as well. And Billy Joe, let me just be honest here. I'm not a personal fan of him as a human being. I respect him as a fighter, but overall as a person, he's a disgusting person. I was going to say that out. I mean, boxers, there's boxers, and then there's Billy Joe. There's a lot of guys. I mean, he's not the worst, but he's up there, right? And I'm not talking about this particular situation, but one of the things he said about another fighter was that I will go out on my shit. I'll never quit, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't care. I'm going to go through it. And when it happens to you, I know that you didn't say you quit, but you didn't stop. You didn't yell at your corner when they stopped it. Like, one thing that fighters know when they feel, even though they're losing the fight, if they feel it can go on, they're going to complain if their corner stopped the fight. Case in point in mind, Diego Corrales, when he was getting mollywopped in 2002 against Floyd Mayweather, Mayweather dropped him 5 times in that fight. And his stepdaddy threw in the towel saying, nah, you need to fight another day. You know what Diego did? He almost knocked his stepdad out. I mean, I'm not condoning that kind of violence. I'm just saying that when you're in that heat in the moment, and even though you're losing, fighters want to keep fighting. I'm not taking anything away from Billy Joe Saunders, but I'm saying karma's a mofo. Don't talk about other fighters saying they quit. Then the same thing happens to you. And then on top of that, he didn't even interview. He ran out the ring and they left. We've seen people who had worse injuries at least talk for a few minutes before they go to the hospital. His eye was broken, of course, whatever. His face is broken, but he ran out the ring. He didn't even say hi. He didn't say, he didn't, his corner didn't say, the injury's so bad, we need to go to the hospital. He just left.
So based on the sports doctor, when you catch that video, guys, I won't have it mentioned in the description of the short that comes out and on the full episode when it's released this week. But I would say watch that video, and based on his point of view, for him to run basically to the ambulance. So I know Hearn had mentioned today he was getting surgery. He was getting surgery on that.
He actually has surgery Saturday night and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday. There you go. Yeah.
And recording this on a Monday, so he's already out of surgery. He's had multiple surgeries, actually.
So basically, to have that surgery done the second he got over there, I think it kind of points to what the doctor had mentioned, that there was a multiple fracture, a cheek fracture, but probably serious enough where bone probably got close enough to the eye socket.
He didn't talk to nobody.
I don't know. I don't know if he could have. I don't even know if he could have.
And he didn't go to the hospital right that exact moment. They ran out the ring. It wasn't like, I gotta go because I'm in pain. We've seen this before. He ran out the ring because he lost. He was in pain, but he didn't talk to nobody. And I would say this is Billy Joe's MO. This is not something brand new. He was hurt. I give him that he's hurt, but this is his MO.
I think for the here's the part where I won't give him that much harsh criticism. And here's why. Post conference, if he's not talking, I get that. But at the very least, he shook hands with Canelo. He was at the ringside. It was done, and then at that point, he was on his stool. At the end of the day, if you're dealing with any possible multiple fractures along the way with a possible cornea scratch, whatever it is that's got him closing his eye more than wanting to open his eye, and not because he's choosing to close his eye because his eye is saying "fuck you," you're going to close your eye. Then basically, look. At the end of the day, am I going to be pissed that someone's not talking at post conference? No. At the very least, he said this: "Good job, Canelo. Great fight."
Not doing that. Know why? I'm not. Nope, not giving that. No, why? No, why? Anybody who is known to talk trash and who's been accused of domestic violence, you have been known steroid cheat, and you're known to talk about other boxers on ish that happened to you. No, don't care. I'm not giving no benefit of doubt, and especially on the women front. I'm saying he's a human. I'm not even going to go into detail on it. Just look up Billy Joe Saunders and what happened about a year or two ago on social media. Okay, I don't want to put that on here right now because there's other bad news in boxing that we probably won't or we'll talk about in the future. But he is a disgusting person, and that's a lot for me to say. And there's been worse boxers. I'm saying that he is a horrible person, and I'm saying that you do not get a pass when I know for a fact, and everybody knows for a fact, that you're a disgusting human being.
For that, no, I don't disagree with there. Disgusting human being, agreed. For that part, I'm not.
So you don't get knowing that, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. Now, if it was Canelo, or even I would give Floyd the benefit of doubt over Billy Joe to a degree. No, I take that back. No, Manny would get the benefit of the doubt. Andre Ward get the benefit of the doubt. Canelo get the benefit. I was going down the line. Billy Joe, no. You got too much baggage for me to say, you know what? Now you don't. There's too much stuff for me to say, nah, you that hurt. No, I don't care if you get hurt that. We have seen worse injuries, and a guy's like, yo, my eye's broken. I'm going to the hospital right now, but I want to send a shout out to DAZN, blah, blah, blah. I want to send a shout out to HBO. We have seen guys who have had broken ribs give press conference. We have seen guys who have went through worse. And so knowing that his history, I'm sorry, I just won't do it. I just can't. I'm sorry. Unless you do not have baggage, I'm like, he's in pain. When you have done dirty stuff, can't do it. I know I went on my high horse here, but you know what though? When you're in the discussing human being, you get no clout.
I think outside of the part of the domestic abuse that we're talking about,
and these are all boxing related too. Everything that I'm talking about is some like the domestic violence is as outside the ring. Everything else is boxing related too. If you look up his bio, so I'm just saying you get no love.
I know, and I'd say boxing within the boxing world, shit that he said, I would probably not go that high, not that high yet. I would say. There's probably, if we had to dig around, I'm sure we're going to find a lot worse.
I know that, but I'm saying when you put yourself on Front Street, Jorge, when you openly talk on other people, and then you have your own garbage too, then when something happens, I'm not going to say, I thought you get the benefit of doubt. Nah, we human beings, you a grown ass man. You don't get the benefit of doubt. Nah, you need to take this L. Like when we talked about Canelo with the tainted meat, we still joke about it. You messed up. I agree. And I'm saying if you mess up, you take it.
He's taking it. I don't disagree with not giving it to him. Believe me, I don't disagree with not giving him his just desserts for the shit that he said. I don't disagree with that part. I don't. I'm just at the end of the day, he took a beating.
He took a beating. His career could be over now.
It could be over. Exactly.
And I say it's karma because if his career is over, I hate to do this. I'm going to end on here. If there's anything involved with steroids and boxing or domestic violence, I don't want you fighting anymore. I don't care. Depending on the situation, and there's levels to it. But Billy Joe's situation with the steroids, I'm not saying he should be out of boxing completely. He should have had a suspension. He didn't have a true suspension. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many things involved that I'm not trying to be on a moral thing here, but he did not get suspended for steroids. That did not happen. He took some time off where he wouldn't be fighting anyway. But that's me. I think that I would love to do a show on steroid cheats in the game, basically, and people who do not get caught or something like that. It's so much. But I just had to say that though, because he got the fight, he lost, he got paid. Now he may not fight again. And like Eddie Hearn said, he might be out for like 5 or 6 months for recovery minimum before we can even think about boxing. So that now we know that Billy Joe Saunders is in the rearview mirror. The next fight, Mexican Independence Weekend, because Canelo didn't get hurt. He looked like he barely had a scratch on him. He probably take a few.
He got touched up.
I mean, he got hit, but I'm saying like he wasn't puffy. You didn't see him swelling. Like you can tell he'd been in a fight, but he wasn't in a real fight.
And that's what he got into a fight. Let's just leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. He got into a fight. You got hit enough.
So we are going to see. I'm not going to go into the details we talked about earlier. We're more than likely, I say 95 to 100% going to see Caleb Plant. Okay, that's going to happen. Now Canelo has the WBO belt, the WBC belt, the WBA belt, and the Ring Magazine belt. So like I mentioned in the top of the show, that he is gunning for the undisputed title. And I think that fight will happen now. Like I said, it's going to be a bidding war between DAZN and Fox. We'll talk about that next show. I don't want to go into that right now, that part here. But we've talked about Caleb Plant a lot. So I want to keep it moving on that. So Canelo, congratulations. Once again, another big win. So let's keep it moving here. I'm going to hit the bell again here.
Sure.
This kind of goes hand in hand because Canelo's only loss was to Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather is back again. We mentioned in February he was supposed to be fighting Jake Paul.
Yep.
No, Logan Paul. I'm sorry. Jake just fought. I keep getting them mixed up. And out of nowhere, Sunday, the day after Teofimo Lopez fight, they're going to do this exhibition. Then Showtime CBS involved. Because the first time in February the fight's supposed to happen, this was going to be some off-brand Floyd doing his own thing. Mm-hmm. And then now, June 6th, Sunday in Miami, I believe. Or I can't. Well, they did the press conference in Miami. I don't know if it's going to be in Miami.
It's not going to be in Miami because
I think Floyd, knowing Floyd's home field advantage, he might try to do it in Vegas. He loves Vegas, especially if it's going to be in the States. That's hometown for him. We don't know yet. It's still being worked out. But
actually, if you think about it, if I can still have it in Miami because then we get to the next point.
Well, he does got homes in Miami. Yeah, we can get into that. Yeah,
but now we can cover the reason why.
Let's get into this here. So, June 6th, Floyd against Logan Paul. We know this is happening because Jake Paul fought last month, his brother, and they did 1.4 million pay-per-view buys, and they want to capitalize on this. And Floyd is huge, and Logan's has a bigger influence. But because this happened, Jorge, I've talked about this in the show before. Yep. It may not be this particular person in Floyd Mayweather that pulled this, but once again, I want people to go back to say Teofimo Lopez get the bag. Mm-hmm. And he got this big extreme amount from Triller. He tried to go June 5th. I made a debate that the fight would not happen because Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford was supposed to happen that day when that came out of left field. Mm-hmm. And I said that they were going to have to move that date. And we got killed by the new, being a new show. And all the people was like, yo, you don't know what y'all talking about.
Teofimo that hard got mad at us.
Yeah, Bob Arum, you need to get off Bob Arum's tit. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, now we were literally, I brought the point to you when we were explaining boxing business that Teofimo is a good young fighter, but he can't compete against Manny on the same day. Now the Manny Crawford didn't happen. But what happened when that fell through? Floyd's like, you know what? Let me go ahead and fight on Sunday.
Yeah, no, the wrong. Let's see, right premise, wrong fighter.
Yeah, so Floyd said, I'm gonna fight on Sunday, right? And you know what happened as soon as that fight got announced? Teofimo Lopez and Triller basically moved off June 5th.
Yep, they're fighting now June 19th. So
I am not trying to say Teofimo, I was right. I am not trying to tell if you actually watch Teofimo Lopez fans. I am not trying to be a Teofimo Lopez hater. I'm 41 years old. I've been watching boxing since 1980, since I was born. Okay, I remember Worldwide of Sports. Okay, I kind of understand the fight game as far as business concerned. As great of a fighter we've seen Teofimo Lopez at 23 years old, he is not an A-side pay-per-view fighter yet. Yet. Let me say that. I don't want people to hate on me. He's not there yet, but he cannot compete right now at his young age against more accomplished, higher profile, higher caliber fighters as far as trying to make and sell a fight.
Well, high caliber pay-per-view talent, right? Yes. A-rated pay-per-view boxing talent, whether you're retired or not. He does not have that. He's an A-rated television. If you put him on the Wide World of Sports, he's A-rated.
Oh, on ESPN primetime on a Saturday night, leading from college football.
There.
You're getting 4 or 5 million people watching Teofimo Lopez, but
pay-per-view
$49.95 against a mandatory defense, not against a Lomachenko rematch, not against Ryan Garcia, not against Tank Davis. He's fighting against a guy that is a mandatory, and you're putting this on pay-per-view. And I was clearly stating that if Manny went on the same day, he was not going to fight. Now, of course, it was Manny's bigger counterpart in life in Floyd Mayweather that pushed him off the date. And so I just want people to understand that at the end of the day, as much as boxing is a sport, it's a business first. It's all about what makes dollars make sense. And when Floyd came in on Sunday with Logan Paul and getting his hat knocked off, and man, Floyd, how did Floyd grow that hair out too? You've seen Floyd?
That is, I'll be honest, it's got me.
I didn't mean to sidebar.
It's got me laughing. It's got me laughing a little bit. It's awkward to look at.
It don't look right, man. And then yesterday I saw the shabby beard because he grew that out too. And he looked like a dude I see on the south side up on 42nd and King where I used to stay at my stomping ground.
I'll be honest. It's one of those things that I think if I saw him, I have no choice. I'm gonna try to grab it, pull it off his head. I thought it was like, I'm saying it doesn't look like a toupee. I'm just saying you get used to seeing a certain person wear no hair for a long time.
And we watch him shave it, bick it, kept it low.
You can't help but want to get your hands in and just say bullshit and just dare him on a deer.
I'm gonna go back to I don't remember the last time I think Floyd had hair at least in the Olympics.
I don't even remember that. That's a long time ago.
Because we were just literally talking a few minutes ago. I said about the Diego Corrales fight when he was fighting about the fight being stopped, and I remember Floyd was bald in that fight too.
Yes, he was.
And that was 2002. So we're talking that was 19 years ago. That fight, right? So if we go back to the Olympics in '96, I remember. Floyd did have he had a little bit of fade. He had the little part. I take that back. The last time we saw him had hair. Was like the Olympics in like the first.
It was like a 5 o'clock shadow. On
yeah. He was rocking that one. He barely had a Caesar.
Not even on one, like a half.
If you go to the barbershop, he didn't even really have a Caesar. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not exactly a zero, but let's just say maybe a quarter. He's not even a half. It was still low enough.
I didn't mean to go off like that, but to see Floyd with just the.
You know what's funny? I was waiting for this conversation to come up.
Really?
Because it's funny. I've seen it for about 3 weeks now. I'm like, when the hell am I talking about his hair? I'll wait for Dave. When Dave catches up, then we'll talk about his hair.
That just came out. I just having this, and I'm like, it don't look right. I mean, because we've seen Floyd for over 2+ decades, straight bald head Magoo, and then now all of a sudden here, you're rocking the natural hair and everything like that. I'm not trying to get on you, Floyd. You're a few years older than me. We're in the same age bracket, but I'm just not. I'm used to the bald, bruh. I'm sorry I had to go off like that, but fans, if you like Floyd's hair, let us know. And if you think Floyd should be bald, let us know too.
Light him up.
Yeah, does he need to go back to his barber and say, hey man, just shave it down. Just keep it bald, keep it big, baby. I know it's a little bit more maintenance because you got to keep it because you get that 5 o'clock shadow, but he's Floyd. He's made $1 billion in his career. He can have his barber ready to go in 5 minutes.
So the barber's in his closet. He's living there.
Basically, I bet his barber is probably got his bag and he's probably got a house next door or something. He probably lives in a guest house or something like that. Like, hey man, I need to cut at 413.
Yeah,
it's 411 now. He comes upstairs.
What was the butler's name in Fresh Prince? I
forget.
Jeffrey. Got little Jeffrey hanging around there.
And the royal shears are here, sir. But let me get back on track here. So Jake Paul has actually been banned from the fight, from the corner, because he pulled the scuffle.
WWE style scuffle there. We got to catch it on YouTube. Watch it.
He took his hat, and then when it was all said and done, Logan Paul's pants was shredded. Like, it reminded me of the Lennox Lewis Mike Tyson scuffle when the clothes were ripped and stuff.
That was a more legitimate scuffle than
I know. I'm just saying that's the only thing I can think of when clothes are being ripped apart. Like, I know Tyson really was trying to kill Lennox Lewis in that.
Yeah,
of course. He actually bit Lennox Lewis in the leg. Do you know that? During that scuffle,
I didn't think we were going to talk about that, but yeah.
I'm not going to get into it right now. We'll talk about it another time.
Yeah, another time.
But I mean, I'm saying his pants got ripped.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that when scuffles are real, like, you get someone like Tyson who's gonna bite. You're gonna have a bite mark.
You get dirty.
You get dirty. Yeah, man. Ain't no refs there.
It's basically no holds bar, and that to me the true no holds bar. Not the WWE style. With them fake scratches and stuff. I'm gonna bite your ankle.
So let's just keep it 100 here now. Teofimo's got to move now to. They're saying tentatively 2 weeks to June 19th. That's even worse when you think about it, because, okay, if he stayed on June 5th, you have to worry about how many people is not going to buy the pay-per-view because they're going to wait till Sunday to watch Floyd, right? So it's like, okay, they did the numbers. We're not going to compete with Floyd. Let's go to June 19th, possibly. But on June 19th, DAZN has a card. Free, technically, unless you pay, like I own DAZN. No, I mean, I pay for it. I paid the $100 for the year, so I don't got to worry about paying him come out of pocket for DAZN.
Exactly.
ESPN got a card that weekend as well. The same time, I don't pay for ESPN. That's part of my cable package.
Exactly.
Showtime is putting a card that weekend as well. You know what though? I admit I have every single TV in my house, every channel in my house. I have Showtime. So you know what though? I already got that on the budget and part of my cable plan because that's part of my cable package. So everything that comes on boxing on Saturday that they're planning to move to, Jorge, I already is paid for as part of my cable package. So I'm not paying any extra money.
Yep.
So this is what I was talking about Teofimo competing against Manny, but just in general in a pay-per-view model when he's not ready yet.
Yep.
He can't compete against Floyd? Reason why they're moving that. No one can compete against Floyd. Hell, the only person competing against Floyd is Manny Pacquiao. So you're going to compete against 3 free events, and then you don't even have the bells and whistles of WWE style. Like, well, Oscar's not going to be drunk on a telecast. They even said this is going to be a traditional boxing pay-per-view compared to there's not going to be no music performances. They're going to try to do it the old school way with Teofimo, you know? So I'm just going to come back and say what I said about a month ago. Teofimo's got screwed. He's getting paid, but he's kind of screwing himself to the point where I mentioned that if these pay-per-view numbers come in low, do you really want to take that chance and compete with him as the A side unless you have Tank Davis or Ryan Garcia in the ring with him? Yeah. That's the only pay-per-view model. I'm just saying, I want to hear what you're going to say, but I do not see any scenario right now that he has a successful pay-per-view if it's going to be in June.
One of the things he's probably got going right now is definitely a bruised ego. So you think about it this way, right? You were already facing the threat of getting pushed off with Manny Pacquiao. Then you got Floyd, who basically said he saw the calendar, saw you were on the schedule anyways, and he said,
easy win.
And he said, F you, I'm going to make this money. You're going to have to move on your own.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And you're a gambler, you know that line.
Exactly. So he got moved. Floyd basically said, F you. So basically, you're only getting some disrespect already for the way you handled your business in the first place. A lot of this, you're doing this to your damn self. But now you got basically the boxing world, retired boxers are saying, F you too. I can come and make this more money than you can. Good luck on your following, your 2 weeks from now, fighting stuff. It's a humble pie. He's eating some humble pie right now. And, granted, it's a $6 million humble pie, but
yeah, I mean, that's the total pie. He's getting 3 and change.
But let's just put it this way. It's not looking good if these pay-per-view numbers for him on the 19th against free fights, basically, according to your package, because I have the same DAZN package as you have. So I don't got to pay for DAZN.
Right.
I can watch ESPN for free anywhere I can that's got cable. Like I said, it doesn't have to be in my house. I go to somebody else's house and watch it for free. The same thing for shows. I can go to your crib. I can go to anybody else's crib and watch it. At the end of the day, I don't, you're competing against free fights. And you're playing, you did all this to fight a no-name mandatory. Unfortunately, no disrespect to the other fighter, but that is exactly what it is. If it was a high-name mandatory, that would make sense. You're facing a no-name mandatory. If your mandatory was Devin Haney, that would have been different.
Even then, I don't see the pay-per-view numbers move. The diehards like me,
would have bought it.
Okay, let me track. The diehards like me and you would buy the pay-per-view, but the casual still wouldn't cop it. So the numbers would go up for like me and you type of crowd, but either weekend it still would get killed against Floyd.
Oh yeah, of course. No,
you know what I'm saying?
You're not beating Floyd or Manny no matter what. But I'd say if you were, basically he needed this fight from the get-go, from the beginning. You look like you were in the free and clear on the 5th. No one was interfere.
Let me add too that Evander Holyfield is supposed to be an exhibition card with Peter McNeely, the last guy who technically beat Mike Tyson in an actual real fight, right? And if you add Evander Holyfield to your card and you still feel it's not enough,
that's not moving the needle. That's not moving.
Now, if it was Holyfield Tyson,
that would have moved the needle.
Oh yeah, Floyd would not touch that. I know that for a fact.
I think
Floyd would not even think that weekend. He's like, let's look at something. Let's look at we'll look at June 19th when their free joints, and we can take their free joints. You know what I'm saying?
He might have been there fight night to watch it at ringside. That would have been Floyd on that one.
He probably been betting the fight. Too.
He paid respects. He respects to the legends. He would have done the right thing and stayed off of that one.
But I just want to add that Holyfield's on the undercard, and that still made Triller move the fight 2 weeks. It's still not official yet. because they haven't locked in that date. They did through the 19th out there. There still could be a possibility they might move to the 26th because that's a less boxing weekend. I mean, but the fact that they're forced to move back, then they only have just the one exhibition fight. Then you got the fact that it's a pay-per-view. You got to promote it. Yep. And Teofimo is not the Paul brothers, who have a combined close to 40 million social media followers, where all they got to do is send one tweet or do one YouTube video, and within less than 12 hours, all 40 million of his both the brothers' followers would see that, retweet it, watch it over again, and then put it on different social media platforms. That's a whole different platform than what Teofimo has. He's on Twitter. He's pumping himself up. He ain't the Paul brothers.
So one of the things that we talked about in our sidebar and stuff before this recording, he's gonna have to. So Devin Haney's gonna end up fighting Linares on the 29th. He needs to get on any platform, every platform, be at every fight, at ringside, do interviews. So May 29th, Devin Haney, you better be at ringside. Lomachenko, I believe he fights on the 12th, top rank, better be at ringside, better start doing interviews. Get your ass out there trying to sell the shit out of this fight, because at the end of the day, no one's right now interested in watching you, especially in the way you're carrying yourself at this point. And you got bumped. Floyd said, fuck you, you move off. That's basically right now. You're getting a little bit of disrespect. You're eating some humble pie now, and you might eat some humble pie afterwards.
And I want to say, I follow him on Twitter. I love Teofimo Lopez. I love him as a fighter. I respect him as a young fighter. I like the fact that how hard he pushed for the Lomachenko fight, and he bet against himself. Like guys like that, I do want to see them succeed in their career. The problem though is that when you think, and this is no disrespect, it's just that when you think that you're bigger than what you are yet. And I know that because your fan base and social media pumps you up, because all you got to do is look at your phone and then you look at your followers and you know that you got 1 million people in your corner. But I mean, boxing's been around for 100 years and it's still an archaic sport where that there's the business minds that are involved, and you can huff and puff. Just sometimes it's not your time.
I will say this here, and I hate the fact that we have to bring up this caveat in this example for Teofimo and stuff.
I hate it too. I hate it.
And I'm gonna say this for every fighter moving forward and stuff. Unless you hear it clearly from my mouth or his mouth that we completely disrespect or dislike a fighter for the way he carries himself in the ring, the way he handles his business, the what he does out the ring, right? Being a human being and all, right? Unless you hear those things come out of our mouth where we have a complete disdain for that fighter and condemning all the actions for it, assume that we respect every single fighter who gets steps in the ring. It's a hard-ass job. You're taking punches for a reason. You're having to work out and live in the gym. We hate the fact that we have to bring up, we have to bring that caveat every time we have to talk about a fighter the way. I respect the shit out of Teofimo, but I hate the way he handles his business. I should never have to say that I respect the fighter for what he does in the ring.
And here's
assuming that we do already.
I hate to cut you off. And let me add another thing too. I'm piggybacking off what you're saying here. I would probably be in Teofimo's corner if he was having this beef with Bob Arum for a more longer period of time, a la Floyd Mayweather we talked earlier. Remember, I was mentioning back in 2002, maybe thought he was bigger than what he was. Same thing as Teofimo. He fought that when Floyd was fighting. If you've been to Vegas, you've seen that big old banner on the MGM Grand Hotel where that his face is basically down the whole one West Side Tower. That's got to be like 2 football fields long that hangs down. And he felt that he deserved the promotion to be there back in 2001, 2002, before he was Pretty Boy Floyd then, right?
Yep.
He had that confidence. He had that going, right?
The swagger was going.
That swagger was there, right? I mean, that's a whole different ball game I'm looking at because of what was being promoted and how he felt it was compared to Teofimo. Because the reason I'm bringing that up, we've had years of disagreement how Floyd thought he was being promoted.
Yep.
Teofimo is being mad that he couldn't get more money for a mandatory defense. Now, the business part saying that's right, be about your money, push your promoter to get you more money. But the way he is battling his promoter, it makes it seem like this has been going on for like 4 or 5 years, when in a sense, he's just asking for a gang of money against someone who's never fought. And he just happened to have a buyer who is thirsty, like Triller, to get into the game. They're overspending, which is dope for him. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this like, I'm not dissing Teofimo. I'm just looking at the gripes, and I wish I knew all the details behind the scenes. But one of the details we do know is that he's mad that he was getting offered minimum for a mandatory that no one's going to pay for until a new outlaw's in town. Because there's no Triller. Let's say if this was 2 years ago, he's taking that $2 million, unless he goes to the purse bet and he goes to Eddie Hearn for $3 million. There is no $6 million if you don't have Triller involved.
Yep.
He just happened to have that, and I'm not trying to dismiss that, but I'm just keeping it 100 here. He's acting like Bob Arum is doing him bogus for years, and I want to know the details of it because, and we probably won't know it, but Floyd was mad about promotions for 4 or 5 years, thought he'd a bigger draw, and then once he left, he proved it. Teofimo was just mad because he didn't get the mandatory purse. They didn't want it.
And at that point, I mean, for going back to the Floyd example and stuff, he had already a resume to kind of back up his feelings and his sentiment on that. So to me, that basically gives credence to his thought process and stuff. And at the very end of the day, you got his side of the story. Aaron came back from his side of the story. And at the end of the day, you have a picture perfect setup of that timeline and why they had the disagreement, why they had the breakup and stuff, which made a lot of logical sense. This right now is not making any logical sense. And right now, you're basically hopping around the month of June trying to find a date that makes sense. Would it even surprise me you get pushed off of June completely? Would not surprise me at all. But and at the end of the day, it's a shame. He didn't have to go this far. You spent how many months trying to get that fight with that? No, get the money for the fight. No, get the right amount of money for the fight. A mandatory. You could have been following the whole Canelo program. You could have already fought twice by now.
Yeah, I mean, I understand like the hurt business and you want to get paid top dollar, but when you're 23 years old, I think that these, like trying to capitalize and then make yourself the star that you are right now. There are certain fights like you don't need to be out the ring 2 years. Like I know he fought Lomachenko, but then what was that, October?
Yeah.
And now we're in June and we still don't have a tentative date yet. And this is for a mandatory. So that means that we're not even looking at the possibility of him fighting Tank Davis or Ryan Garcia or the Haney's right now because this mandatory keeps getting pushed and pushed when we've been talking about this mandatory since freaking January or February.
This is a mandatory. A mandatory is one of those things that you take care of quickly. That should have no problem with the negotiation. You take the money where you can get it, and that's it. You move on to the next fight, which should have been right now a much bigger fight. There's no reason why we're talking about, in middle of May, trying to figure out where you're going to fight in June or not.
Let me just make this. I'm gonna make this last point on this here. We'll probably come back to some future shows. I just want to just really, really point out that for Teofimo, these rounds in this time period and his young and trying to capitalize on his celebrity is huge right now. But I can understand you're fighting for the check for a major payday. Like if it was the Tank Davis fight and you were getting lowballed, I can understand sitting on that principle. And like I said, the fact that you $2 million to $6 million from Triller, man, I don't want to count pockets, and he's a good young kid. We can see, like, he's doing things the right way as far as when you see him outside the ring and then when you see him talking, he's a good young guy. Got no problem with that. I just feel that some of the business aspect is not being worked out properly. And I hope at the end of the day, this is just a blip in the radar. It's a speed bump. And then next year we see him on his way. I'm just saying right now, the fights that we want to see is kind of slowly getting pushed away until we get a mandatory out the way. This is the type of negotiations and type of long period that should happen for Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to fight Ryan Garcia, then you're fighting with your lawyers about what the percentage cuts and what's going on like that. If this was going on right now for that or Tank Davis, I can understand that. A mandatory where it all, and then you trying to find a date and then it's going to be on pay-per-view. And then you got to make sure that if it makes money, so it can be a pay-per-view draw in the future, because after those two fights, if this one is a dud and we don't see those fights for a long time for Tank and Ryan Garcia, when do we see him on pay-per-view unless Triller rolls the ball again and take that chance?
Yeah, and the thing is that, and if Triller comes out anywhere looking red, or let's put it this way, say even coming out positive,
compared to the Logan brothers, before I cut you off.
Exactly, but in this case, say even comes out positive, but nowhere near the expectations numbers-wise, Triller's gonna have a hard time when to come back to you again
and be like, "Hey, Teofimo, if anything, it's like, yo, you go on the undercard and we can't do $6 million."
You might exactly. It's either you were headlining a pay-per-view, or on Triller, you don't want to be the undercard. If you're the undercard on Triller, that is a problem that people will use against you all the time, especially when the time comes when you have to fight, like you mentioned, Davis, Haney, Garcia, right? Guy, you should be fighting with them on who's the A side of the fight, not this bullshit here with the mandatory.
Before we close out the show here, I just want to tease this for a future show. This regards for Triller. We went heavy on Canelo and we mentioned, his old promoters, Oscar De La Hoya. I'm not going to get in deep in this. I just want to touch this before we go out here. There was a news report that Oscar's deal with DAZN could be it's going to expire and look like it may not be renewed, possibly, depending on it. And he's, we know that he's going to fight an exhibition in Triller. And we're going to talk about this in deep when his exhibition comes close. But it's looking like Golden Point Promotions is on the rocks right now. It's that, they're talking about him going on Triller full time, but Triller's a pay-per-view model. So, and they don't have a broadcast right outside of if they put on a pay-per-view event. So I'm just leaving this open-ended. I know that you're going to have a comment really fast, but it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, okay, is Oscar going to headline? He's going to have Ryan Garcia on undercards for the next pay-per-views for the next few years or something. Yeah. Like, as far as Golden Boy Promotions is concerned, Oscar, we're going to go in depth in this. I just want to tease this here. Oscar and the Canelo fiasco with that contract I mentioned, that $365 million contract with DAZN, and came to find out he was on some shenanigans and Canelo didn't get his full money, where that he went to sue and then he got his contract. Oscar's going to be good financially. He's not hurting for money, but as far as a company, I just want to see this here for the end of the show. Golden Boy's not looking good right now. Yeah. So one of the reasons, I wanted to piggyback off what David said there. So something we kind of talked about, though, we wanted to go into that, but I think we wanted to make that more part of a bigger discussion. So I believe, I'm going to tease this right here. So I believe our next episode, because we were going to be in between probably major fights and stuff that we're going to be able to cover. So I think we're going to be able to squeeze this opportunity in there and kind of go over in depth the rise and fall and the several rises and fall of Oscar De La Hoya, not just from his fighting career, but also his promotional and business career. Mm-hmm. I think there is a lot of things within 1 hour we might be able to touch on and basically speak on a little bit when it comes to Oscar De La Hoya in terms of his career as a fighter and as a promoter, businessman. He's an important figure in the boxing world, and we're going to do things just like this, not just Oscar, but we do plan to talk about Bob Arum. We do plan to talk about some other promoters as well who've been in the game for a long time. Don King probably at some point, and maybe even Eddie Hearn. And we'll get to those things, and we'll tease those things in there as the months and weeks come on and stuff. But we wanted to get that out there, and so have a ear out for that next episode. Will be next week, and then we'll keep you posted on future shows that are of similar content. Yeah, so that was a report. I just want to get that out there that he could be moving up his own. He doesn't have many fighters. I know he signed a couple of Olympians late last year, or they were in the U.S. Olympic program. But let's just be real here. But when we get in detail on this, Triller is not a broadcast partner for regular day-to-day. Like you can pay DAZN for streaming, and you have that there. You have Showtime that does that. You have ESPN that does that, all outlets. And so if you're telling me you're going to move off an outlet that is putting on cards, there's 52 weeks in a year, and DAZN's game plan before COVID was to have events 40 weekends out of the year, you're going to move away from that to a complete pay-per-view model with guys who are not even on pay-per-view, only to piggyback off you. I'm just going to put that out to you guys, to the people here. If you check out the report and you listen to what we're saying here, that don't sound too good. Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about this because we're in and out here, and if we talk about this right now, this would be a 2-hour show, and people don't want to digest another hour, but probably want to get us in sections here. So we want to teach you on that. But I just want you guys to keep that in mind here, that Golden Boy Promotions on the ropes here, and when you got Al Heyman, got CBS, Showtime, and Fox lined up, DAZN's got their own thing. Bob Arum's got ESPN Plus lined up. What's the other? Is there any other major outlets that put on boxing? UFC does its own thing for mixed martial arts. Yep. And also ESPN has another MMA, broadcast arm that they added. But man, Oscar's on the outside looking in right now by 2022. So, unless something changes, because let's just be honest here, Showtime ain't rocking with Oscar. We're going to do it because that's Al Heyman, and he ain't doing it. ESPN. Bob Arum be like, nah, we dolo.
HBO left the boxing game.
And DAZN is like, yo, we got Canelo. We don't need you. Yeah. So I just want to put that out there, and we'll talk about this in depth. But I thought that was very interesting that all they have left is him and Ryan Garcia and Virgil Ortiz.
Yeah. No, so like I said, next episode we'll cover a lot of the things that predate early Oscar stuff, middle Oscar stuff, and then the current things with Oscar, and we'll speculate on some of the things that are coming on forward, because again, unless Oscar comes out with something that is completely unexpected that will
game changer.
That's a game changer and stuff. I tend to agree with David on this one. Something's wrong there, and we definitely want to touch on those on that subject a bit. But that definitely deserved its own show. So next show we'll have that covered for you guys.
So on that note, we're going to close out of here. We went a little bit over, but that's okay though, So once again, if you're on YouTube, click on like, subscribe, click on the bell notification. We're on the road to our 100 subscriber. We only need one more left. So when you check this show out, if you ain't subscribed, click on that and then click on that bell notification so you can get these new episodes, because we're in the heart of summertime and there are so many fights that's going to be happening on all the broadcast partners we just mentioned. And we're going to do our best to cover them as well as try to travel to them as well. So like I said, click like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Like I said too, we're on all audio podcasts on Apple and Spotify. I'm checking out the new users who's checking that out. Just so if you're not on YouTube, but you're on that, we appreciate those listens. We love it. Thank you very much. And also, you can check me out on Wednesdays on YouTube. Jump Off Live, the other podcasts around. We talk about life, current events, everything with my brothers JD, John, and Jeff. So that's Jump Off Live on Wednesdays. Jorge, what you got?
Live_Dominoes is the name of the Twitch channel. You can catch me there. New schedule now, just being update there. Things that happen with life that start to interfere with the current schedule. So I'll do updates to the schedule. So streaming on Tuesdays at La Taberna. So I'll be streaming tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central. And then you can catch me on Wednesdays live at PL Lounge, 3456 North Pulaski in Chicago. So if you're in the area, do join us there. We stream at 8 o'clock, and you can get there as early as 6 to enjoy some food, drinks, and get some games in before we start the stream. And then we'll still be streaming on Saturdays at 8 p.m. from La Taberna. So that is the new schedule. I'll have it posted on the Twitch channel. Live_Dominoes is where you can find me.
Okay. And one last thing, I want to shout out again to my man Eduardo. A Spanglish Sports World that says send a shout out. He's doing big things. And there's a reason why we got that WBC belt here and there, because Eduardo, I see you rocking with the WBC here. And we know we give the WBC a little bit of a hard time, but we rock with y'all as well. We just want to see good boxing. So I just want to point that out there. Sanctioning bodies do your job so that fans like us can enjoy the sport.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off that comment. Thank you, Eduardo, for your support. And right now, we wouldn't be as inspired or motivated to do this without you there. So appreciate everything you've done for us.
So on that note, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back again. There's more fights on the board here, and we'll be back to talk about them. So for my man, Jorge, a.k.a. Papo, it's on the shirt.
It's on the shirt.
That's right. I am that dude named Dave, and this is for Boxing Now Podcast, and we are out of here till the next time. Peace, fellas.
Stay safe, folks.